All right, guys. Guys, I'll let it for now, but if it becomes an issue, I'm moving you. Yep. I mean, first thing they're moved. Guys, are there any questions over any of the previous assignments? Any questions over any of the previous assignments that we've had? You can do that later. Brendan, put it down. All right, guys, so what we're looking at today is finding the equation of the parabola from the given information. There's two ways they're going to be set up, or two pieces of information that we're going to be given. Either we're given the vertex and a point, or the x-intercepts and a point. We're going to be given one of these two pieces of information. And from that, we're going to find the equation. If we're given the vertex and a point that it goes through, we're going to use vertex form. And our vertex form is our y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, where the vertex is the point h comma k, and we have a point x comma y. The other equation that we have is our x-intercept form. Y is equal to a times x minus p times x minus q, and we have our x-intercepts of p comma 0 and q comma 0. And we're given a point x comma y. And we know that it's an x-intercept because the y values are 0. If the y value is 0, it's telling us that it's an x-intercept. Any questions on this so far? Now again, the note sheets for this look a little intense, but again, I just drug out and kind of made it, really making this process of what we're doing very simple. Yes, sir?
How come you use like P and Q?
Because P and Q are talking about intercepts, and H and K are talking about the vertex. So they have a specific purpose for each one. Now, when we look at the first one here, which of these two equations are we using? The first one or the second one from the given information that the vertex is 3, 2, and it passes through the point 13, 8? The first one or the second one that's listed?
First one.
So what did they tell us? The vertex is?
3 and 2.
So we're using y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, because that one there is in vertex form. So that's the equation that we're going to use. So we can circle it. Yes. So example 1. Yep. Now the second part, it's asking, what are the variables that we have? Now we don't consider x and y for this equation to be variables. They are, but x is the input, the numbers we would plug in, and y is the output, our input and output. They will still be there when we find the equation. The ones that we really need to find values for are a, h, and k. For us to find the equation, we need to find the values of a, h, and k. So the second part is a, h, and k. So we just list a, h, and k for number 2, because those are the variables we need to find the value for. X and y will still be in the equation when we're done. We'll still have those. But the ones we need to input a value for or replace with a value are a, h, and k. That brings us to the last part on this page, because it's saying, which variables do we know the value for? Well, because we know 3, 2 is the vertex, which is our h comma k, is that point. Which tells us that the value of h is 3 and the value of k is 2. Because the vertex is our h comma k, it tells us immediately what h and k r. So for that third part, we can say h is equal to 3 and k is equal to 2. Or each one, so we could say h equals 3, k equals 2. Now again, this here, you're not going to have to do it like this on the homework or on the review sheet or on the test. I'm stretching this out so that you can see every little piece of how it's hooking together. So, in the equation itself, we know h and k now, yes? So really the equation so far is y equals, we still don't know what a is, but we have x minus h. Well, h is 3, so x minus 3 squared plus 2. So we can plug that in. So at the top of this, or the top of the back of the first page, we can write that into the equation. And again, the whole goal for this is to find the equation of the parabola. We're almost there, because the only thing we're missing from this equation is the value of a. Really, if this was, say, worth 4 points, 1 for a, 1 for h, 1 for k, then 1 for doing it, well, we're 2/3 of the way done, because we found 2 out of the 3 values, yes? So, any questions on anything we've done thus far? Is there any of the given information that we started with that we haven't used? 13,8, yes? It's a point on the graph, which really is telling me that if I plug 13 in for x, the value of y is 8. And that's what we're going to use, because no matter what a is, its value, if we plug 13 in for x, it's going to give us a y value of 8. So what we're going to do is plug that in and say that 8 is equal to a times x is 13 minus 3 squared plus 2. We're using that point that it's going through to find the value of a. So really all we have done so far is we picked the equation that's in vertex form, plugged in the value of h and k. Now we're solving for a to plug it in. And when we're solving for a, the first thing we're going to simplify and solve is this parentheses squared, set of parentheses squared. We could type that into the calculator, not the whole thing, because we don't know what a is. But I could type in parentheses 13 minus 3, close parentheses squared, hit enter to get that value. Now if we did this by hand, well, 13 minus 3 is 10 squared. Now 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100a plus 2. What would we do next? We would subtract 2 from both sides. 8 minus 2 is 6. Thank you. Is equal to 100a. And last but not least, we would by 100. Now, at this point here, we could type 6 over 100 in the calculator and let it simplify. Thank you, Tyler. And let it simplify it for us. And if we simplify this here, it is 3 over 50. Because they both have a common factor of 2, that would simplify out. Questions on how we found the value of a?
So would that be for 25?
Yep. With plugging a's value in. So we'd have y equals, a is 3 over 50 times x minus 3 squared plus 2. And that's it. And that's all we have to do on this here. And again, I made it a little kind of painstakingly elongated in all the different parts just so that y'all can make sure where each part connects and how we do this here. And especially when you guys do this on the homework or on the test or the review sheet, you're not going to have to do everything that's on that note sheet. Yes, sir.
So whatever happens to that, you get 13.
So that's the point on the graph. So you remember doing t-tables where we found points on the graph? That's all that is. So we're using it to find the value of a. So that's all we're using it for, is to find a's value.
I thought we'd still put in like the 8 on the line.
No, we don't have to do that. Because if we plugged it back in now, it'll show us again that that is a point, that it does come out to be true. Any other questions on this here? We ready for the next one? So example 2 tells us that the vertex is -5, 9 and passes through the point -7, -15. Well, which equation will we use? So we're probably halfway on the second page. So, or the back of the first page.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Now, this one here, because they gave us the vertex, we're using vertex form. So we can circle the vertex form. So number 2, the value of h, k, and a are the variables that we want. So h is, and k is 9. Guys, just focus back in. So, questions on what variables we're finding or what h and k are? No. I mean, at this point, really, if y'all wanted to, especially on the homework, we could write the equation we're starting with and go on and just plug in x, h, and k in. Not interrupting anything? Yeah? Okay. Here, the negative and negative would make a plus. Any questions on how we got to this point? So to find a, the last part we have to plug into for x and y. So y would be negative times a times -7 plus 5 squared plus 9. Now we do need to simplify our set of parentheses squared first. And again, we could type that into the calculator to see what we get. Because we'd have -2 squared plus 9. And -2 squared is +4. Because our -2 times -2, the negative and negative would make a positive. And 2 times 2 is 4. Then we would subtract the 9. You're welcome. Telling us that 4a is equal to -24. Because -15 minus 9 is -24. Questions on this here so far? And last but not least, we would need to divide by 4. Yes. Telling us a is -6. And last but not least, we would plug it back in, telling us y is equal to -6 times x plus 5 squared plus 9. Any questions on any of this here? We're starting to feel a little, or feel pretty comfortable with these here. If they give us the vertex and a point. We ready for the next one? So this one here, they tell us that the x-intercepts are -7 and -3, and it passes through the point 2, 0.05. Since we have x-intercepts, we're not using the vertex form. We're using the x-intercept form. And P and Q are the x-intercepts. So which one would be P? Q would be? Could I have said P is -3? Yeah, as long as I said that Q was -7. Now, I did skip over the fact that, well, for our part 2, our variables are A, P, and Q. And we know P is -7 and Q is -3. Yes. Now, what do you think we do next? Do we plug P and Q back in? So y is equal to A times x minus -7 and x minus +7 +3, because our minus and negative is going to change to a plus, change to a positive, yes. So the only thing we have left to plug in is A, and we need to solve for it. So we're going to use the point it passes through to find the value of A. So what that's telling us is that 0.05 is equal to A times 7 times 2 plus 3. Because this time, unlike the first one, we have 2 places we're plugging the x value in instead of 1. Now we can do this by hand, or, well, since these two are just being multiplied together, we could type that in, and the calculator will multiply them together for us. If we did this by hand, well, -2 plus 7 is 5. -2 plus 3 is, and A times 5 times 1 is 5A. It will have a 1 in it. It's going to be 0.01. 0.01. And again, at that point, you could have plugged that in. Yes, y equals. Y equals, well, the value of A is 0 times. So for the most part, the process is almost the exact same, just the starting equation or the equation we end up looks different. Questions on any of this here? Let's do one more, and then we will be done with this section here. And that's this one here. Now for this one, they gave us the points -16, 0 and -2, 0. And they told us that it passes through the point -1872. Even though it doesn't tell us that we have 2 x-intercepts, we know that these 2 points are x-intercepts because the y value is 0. So it's really telling me that we have P, 0 and so our starting equation is our y equals A times x minus P times x minus Q. And when you're doing these on the homework, you could go on and plug them in at this point. We don't have to go through the same stepped out process we've been doing. Because again, we know that we're trying to find A, P, and Q. And we also know that P is -16 and Q is, or vice versa. And all we need to do is plug it in. And the negative and negative would make a positive. So we end up with A times x plus 16 times x plus 2. And last but not least, we need to plug it in. plug in our value, negative 18, 72. So we'd have 72 is equal to A times 18 plus 16 times negative 18 plus 2. Now if we solve this or simplified it by hand, negative 18 plus 16 is negative 18 plus 2 is well, negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 16 is then we divide both sides by. Will 32 go into 72 evenly? No. So most likely I would grab a calculator and let it do it for us. But 8 will go into both. Because 8 times what is 72? And 8 times what is 32? 4. So it actually simplifies to 9/4. We don't have to turn it into a decimal. We can leave it as a fraction, saying y is equal to 9/4 times x plus 16 times x plus 2. And that's it. Questions on any of this here? Yes.
I was like, that is. Oh, it is staples.
Okay. I only gave you 2. I only gave y'all 2 worksheets. Here they are. Did everybody get a note or worksheet? All right, guys.